The SEC exam is coming. Let's just say hypothetically you get audited. You have about 30 days to produce a mountain of documents. And if you cannot pull them fast, you have a problem before the exam even starts. In this video, I'm going to be going through the exact process that the exam it goes through. And this is a piggyback off of the last video that kind of lays out some of the good foundations of what you need to know. But I want to bring this back to something super, super easy that everybody can understand. A lemonade stand. And why does a lemonade stand match the SEC exam? Well, I'm going to be diving into that, what you need to produce, the things that you need to be aware of, and I'm going to share my screen along the way. How are you doing? My name is Harrison Barron from SecureWealthIT.com. We help financial firms, specifically RIAs and broker-dealers, make sure that they are not only secure, but also making sure that their technology works the way that they want. Whether it's onboarding an employee, offboarding an employee, making sure that your printer just prints the way that you want, connecting onto secure Wi-Fi, so that way when the time comes and there is an exam, you know that your system is locked down, secure, and your documents are safe and secure, so that way when you need to produce them, it goes off without a hitch. If you want to reach out to us, you can head over to SecureWealthIT.com. We have a ton of information over on our website, what we do, how we help people, all that good stuff over on there from our services. We only deal with the finance industry, so we know all the tools that you typically use on a day-to-day basis, whether it's Orion, Black Diamond, the list goes on, and Nitrogen. It's all of them. We love all of them, and we love working with them. So let's talk about the lemonade stand here. And I'm going to share my screen. And I just pulled this up on Canva here, but I have a little lemonade stand, and I'm going to just shrink myself down a little bit too to, for good measure. But we have this lemonade stand basically is you and your business, right? You're trying to produce as much business as you possibly can. And the stand has to prove to the SEC that it follows the rules, that you're doing what you should be doing. And unfortunately, doing that from memory is impossible. That is why the notebooks exist. And I'm going to be talking about these notebooks going forward. And these are just symbols for what you actually need to produce, right? In many cases, compliance software is the notebook. It stores proof that you follow rules. But here's the trap. There is not one notebook. That's the crazy part. Like all these companies say, oh, we're going to make sure that you're compliant, you're compliant, you're compliant. But you're actually not compliant because there's no way one software is going to do your entire stack. Because if it existed, you'd probably know about it. But the marketing proves otherwise. Some of the notebooks store your data. Some of the notebooks do different things. And that's what we're going to be breaking down in this video because there's actually 4 notebooks. And each one of those notebooks is a different piece of the puzzle of what the SEC exam actually is going to be about. So I'm going to pull up my screen here and just show you my 4 notebooks. Now, this is just using some basic images, but I hope you get the point of, hey, we have 4 notebooks here. Each one of those notebooks represents a different thing that you actually have to produce to the SEC, right? And while there are great vendors in the space, none of them really seem to do all of it. And unfortunately, that leaves you as the financial firm or CCO or whomever you are watching this in being responsible for things that you probably don't want to deal with. And unfortunately, there are several different notebooks. Some of them are required under rules and some of them aren't required under rules. So let's talk about the first one, the compliance program or the compliance notebook. You need to have a compliance program. Now, I'm sure that you probably already know this, right? Inside of that, the notebook, the compliance program notebook, we'll call it, the calendar, the tasks, the annual review under Rule 206-4-7, right? You have Form ADV filing policies and procedures, vendor list. This is what most small RIAs mean when they say that they're compliance or they have compliance software. And there's some great vendors in the space. You have Orion, you have RIA in a box, you have Smart RIA. There are so many out there that will help make sure that you are compliant. However, once again, they don't do all of them, right? That's the problem is they're going to take part of that compliance aspect of it and make sure that, hey, you know what, you're doing the right thing there. Now, the second one, or the second notebook, is the employee behavior notebook. And believe it or not, there is things that you have to deal with when it comes to employee behavior. If you're thinking about employee behavior, you have a couple different things. Like you have personal trading, pre-clearance, gifts, political contributions, outside business activities, attestations, This is all required under Rule 204A-1. This is where the enterprise vendors like Complicai live. And that's okay. That's great. There's another program, yet another tool to plug into your stack that actually makes this work. But the thing is this notebook has to watch every advisor's personal brokerage account automatically. You can't do it with spreadsheets, and it's required to fill that rule. And a lot of these tools integrate with tons of different banks, so that way it's just done for you and you don't have to worry about it. Now, the third notebook, which I think is also super important, is the marketing notebook. Yes, if you don't know by now, I'm sure you already do, and I'm sure you've probably heard it before, but marketing is important. You need it to grow your business. You need it to be, in many cases, successful. But here's the thing. Every ad, every LinkedIn post, every social media post, every email newsletter, every video thumbnail, every podcast, all need to be gone through into this notebook, right? And a lot of this helps log this and usually approve, whether it's Greenboard, Cedric, Red Oak, Luther. There's a ton of them out there. Even some of the tools like FMG Suite or Snappy Kraken, they will help you with that marketing compliance to make sure that what you're posting is compliant. But you also need to store that information. It can't just go out on the internet and you get and you hope that the right people see it. Unfortunately, when it does go out on the internet, it has to get pre-approved first. And if you produce a lot of content, you absolutely positively need this notebook. This is not like a guessing game, and you need to log this information so that it's stored for when the SEC comes knocking. Because while I would love to, well, I shouldn't say I would love, but I'm glad the SEC doesn't just look at the technology. They're looking at a variety of different things to make sure that you and your firm are doing the right things in the right process. Now, last and certainly not least, and probably the one that impacts me the most, helping financial firms, is the communications notebook. And this is email, text, social, chat, all of these different things that come into, but they also need to be searchable by a supervisor or by the SEC. And you have to make sure that you follow Rule 204-2, where you have to keep this information for 5 years with easily accessible information for that first 2. That is really important, and it needs to be stored in a certain way. It's called worm storage. Write once, read many. It's kind of the thing that I've talked about in several videos now, including the last one, but it has to be saved in there. Now, some of you might have Microsoft 365, which out of the box doesn't satisfy this rule. However, there's modules in there, something called Microsoft Purview, that can help make sure that it archives your emails. But if you're doing any texting, social, or chat that should be tracked, unfortunately, you're going to need to get an additional tool in there because it satisfies that notebook. Think about it. The notebook is your notebooks and your lemonade stand are the things that the SEC is going to look for. And thankfully, in this area, you have Smarsh, Global Relay as two of the bigger names in there that will help with that texting and logging and all of that. But unfortunately, every RIA needs this notebook. Every single one. This is not nobody wants to deal with this. It's hey, you have to follow this. And I promise you, you're probably communicating with your clients and prospects over email. At least at the bare minimum, setting up Purview to make sure that that section of it is covered is super, super important. But these are some of the things that are going to help you, and the 4 notebooks that are going to help you when it comes to an SEC exam. But I also want to give you some mistakes that we keep seeing RIAs make that typically aren't our clients, but we're hearing about it, we're seeing it, and unfortunately, it's just kind of a unfortunate circumstance that people actually have to go through. So we have the 4 notebooks, right? They're all great. But the most common mistakes I see are firms buy notebooks, one at $500 a month, and they think compliance is done, or however much money it actually is. Unfortunately, if you buy it, just because you bought it doesn't mean it's set up correctly and being used correctly. The other mistake is having the tool, right? So a firm has, let's say, Smarsh for archiving, thinking compliance is actually done, but cannot produce an annual review. It's having the tool, but not using the tool to its fullest ability, or having a written information system plan in there, or information security plan in there, so that way, hey, when something does happen, we know it, because they are going to ask about it. The worst is a two-person firm buys one of these notebooks for $15,000 a year, and they have no access, you know, they have no access persons trading personal information, or they have nothing logged correctly, or they're basically buying a Ferrari to drive to the mailbox. They're spending all of this money and not exactly sure where it plugs into their stack. This is driving us crazy, and that's why I'm making this video, to help break down in simple terms the thing that you need. But there's a part that nobody's actually telling you. When you go through and you look at all these notebooks are just small aspects of what you have to do. A notebook is not a lock. It's something that somebody could just open up and flip through, right? If you go through this, just because you have the compliance software and you're taking the right action, does not mean it meets the requirements. It's good that you're doing the right thing, or at least trying to do the right thing, but Regulation SP requires you to actually be able to detect a breach, notify clients within 30 days, and control access to client data. That's one of the biggest things. And unfortunately, no notebook does this. There's no tool, there's no software that you can go get that handles that. And that's one of the biggest things. Regulation SP is looking for something very, very specific. So when you have things that are going to help with this, multi-factor authentication, endpoint detection, email security, backups, and that meets 204-2, a written information security program, that's what they're actually looking for. The compliance tool documents, that is the lock. Right? It's the combination of all of these together that say, hey, we can actually put this under a lock and key, and now we know we're safe. We have all the tools that handle everything, and then we have the technology to produce everything that we need. It's all integrated the right way. That is the big differentiator between firms that actually pass an SEC on the first try, or consistently bombarded with more documents, more investigations, more FaceTimes, more phone calls, and hey, maybe even them knocking on your door and asking for physical proof. So what do you do next? The next thing that you have to do is figure out where you're actually lacking. There are so many different areas in here, depending on your firm size, if you're registered with the SEC, what do you have, your stack that's already in place, whether it's compliance program, employee behavior, marketing, communications, all that good stuff. These are all important things, but you have to sit there and think to yourself, do I have a holistic plan that I can digest, or somebody else can digest and say, that is exactly what I need? And you have the confidence to say, when the SEC comes, you can hand them everything and know that they have every question answered, and you don't have to worry about the big problems. If that's the case, good for you. You are among the very few percentage of people that nails it the first try. And this video is to show you that you have to have these different areas that the SEC is going to ask you for. If you need help with that kind of stuff, feel free to reach out to us at securewealthit.com. But I hope this was a good breakdown. I brought in the lemonade stand, the notebooks, just something easy for people to understand, because reading the rules, reading the regulations, and Regulation S&P and all the other things that the SEC states, it is nauseating. It's a lot of content. If you have questions, feel free to ask us. Leave it in the comments down below, or reach out to us on our website. I have a question about this. We're happy to answer it. We are constantly dealing with firms of all different sizes with these either requirements. Well, all of them have these requirements for the most part, but making sure that, hey, we can put their head on the pillow at night knowing that there are no major issues. Feel free to reach out to us. I hope this video helps. I hope this explained it well enough for you guys. And I'll see you guys on the next video. And if you enjoyed this video, a like button, subscribe button, notification bell is much appreciated. I'll see you on the next one.